Hi, and welcome to the Who Are They podcast. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that sometimes we reference different photos and videos, and those are all available on our Instagram at WH0_ARE_THEY_. So go there for updates about our show and reminders of when our episode drops.
From our Instagram, you can get to any of our other social medias or places to listen to the podcast. If you're listening, go ahead and rate and review, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe.
Thank you for tuning in. Hi, and welcome back to our second episode of the Who Are They podcast. We're really excited to have you back. We hope you enjoyed the first one, and hopefully you enjoy this one too.
If you're back, you're a real one. Because I feel like, I don't know, it's just, we appreciate you. That's what I'm trying to say.
First episode, a little bit rough. Had to do some editing.
Yeah. But we got through, so, yeah.
So thank you for going again.
Right. Well, let's jump right in and catch up. Bailey, I guess share what's going on with you, but I also want to hear, have you watched more Harry Potter?
Oh, yeah. So we watched the Half-Blood Prince, but I did fall asleep for a large chunk of it. Jacob wasn't very happy about that. But yeah, so I don't know what happened for a lot of it, but I do know who the real Half-Blood Prince is because I woke up at the end, but I won't say it.
Okay. I have read all the books, not watched the movies.
Know.
Well, yeah, but like my memory, I swear I'm like an old person. I think I'm already losing my memory. Not really. Okay, not really. Like that's not real. But I mean like
you are losing your hearing though.
No, actually, I really, for real, do have hearing loss, and it's a problem. At my catch-up, and we'll get to that in a minute, but it was so loud at Passion that I brought earplugs with me, and I wore them all the time. Anyways, so I don't lose more hearing. Anyways, keep going with your catch-up.
Okay, so, yeah, we watched that one. We haven't watched any others because I went back to school this week. We had PD on Tuesday, and then we got kids back on Wednesday.
PD is professional development for people that don't know.
So, yes, I'm a teacher. I teach 5th grade, just math and science. So that's really fun. We started fractions this week.
Oh,
kids are into it. I'm into it. I love fractions. We're just adding and subtracting them right now.
Are they actually into it, or are you lying?
No, fractions, I do like fractions.
No, but I mean, do your kids?
Oh, they're into it because they get to play with the little fraction tiles.
Oh, manipulatives really change things.
You know, the first unit you always do about something is like the easiest one, so they're into it right now. But our next one is going to be multiplying and dividing, and I'm not sure they'll be into that.
Multiplying and dividing, that was way easier.
That's what I told them. I said it's my favorite, but we'll see. They're not super optimistic about it. We also
my kids don't like anything math.
Oh, that's all you teach, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, mine are still a little bit babies, so they're still kind of into it.
Right.
You know, they get excited. And, yeah, but science, we started a unit on the solar system.
Oh.
And so there's been a lot of giggling when we say Uranus in class.
I didn't realize where you were going with that until I all of a sudden did. But yeah.
Yeah, we've only been talking about the Earth and the sun and the stars, but somehow they've managed to say Uranus a lot.
Oh, for sure. You know,
yeah.
Okay, I taught the solar system when I did student teaching. And I still to this day, the only way I remember the order of the planets in our solar system is when I was like homeschooled when I was young, right? And my mom would play these geography songs. And like, I'm not kidding. If you asked me to sit here and tell you the order of the planets in the solar system, I wouldn't be able to unless I sang you this song.
Well, sing it.
Now I'm nervous. Okay. Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. These 9 planets revolve around the sun. At the time, Pluto was still a planet.
I was going to say that came up in my class because I was like, can you guys list all the planets? And they go, can we include Pluto? I let them include Pluto, but technically there's only 8 now.
Well, you can teach them my song if you want to.
Maybe I will. That's pretty good. I always knew the saying, my very eager mother just made 9 pancakes.
I don't know that, but now I feel like we're getting boring, so we got to quit talking about the solar system.
Yes, it was, 5th grade is always a treat with lots of drama this week, but there's always a lot of drama, keeps us going throughout the week.
Yeah.
There was a really gross dead possum by the playground. That was topic of conversation among the 5th graders for a bit. We had to keep them away from there, but other than that, it was a good week. I was having a good time teaching fractions and about the sun.
Nice.
So that was really fun. Yeah, that's what I did this week.
Cool. Well, I'm happy to hear that you continued the Harry Potter. Maybe I'll have to do that someday. I was just packing, getting ready to leave, left to Atlanta, Georgia for the Passion Conference, just like a Christian conference for like 18 to 25-year-olds. And I went with Lori, and it was
Who's
so
Lori?
fun. Lori, another friend from college.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, we traveled down there and flew down there, and it was like we had to get up so early, so we were exhausted. But okay, we actually haven't talked about this at all, so this is kind of fun. We met these random girls in the airport at like 6:30 in the morning, and because they were young, they were sitting at our gate, and we were like, oh my gosh, they have to be going, like they must be going to Passion, we just know it. But then we're like creepily watching them, and I was like, well, okay, not really creepily, but I looked at Lori and I said, I want to talk to them, like I want to be their friend, because I can just tell, I just know they must be going to the same place, like they have to be. And Lori was like, yeah, probably, but she wouldn't get up and go talk to them like herself, like alone,
Mm-hmm.
And so finally I was like, Lori, we either have to get up and go over there and talk to them, or we need to like just decide we're not doing it because we're starting to look creepy, because we'd like look over and then we'd start talking and then we'd look over at them again, and start talking. So finally we just got up and we went and talked to them. We like made friends, and it was cute, and we like took a picture together and traded phone numbers and everything. And then like from the airport, we actually ended up catching an Uber with them to our hotels, which I know, which made it pretty easy to like travel and stuff. But the Atlanta airport was wild. We were going to take the train system, but we were like freaked out by that right away, which by the way ended up being the easiest thing in the whole stinking world to figure out. Like it was so dumb. We could have done it. But we figured it out later so that we could travel from our hotel to the stadium and like figure that out. But oh my word, when I tell you 60,000 people is a lot of people, I mean, I don't think my brain can even recognize how many people that really is, even after being with that many people.
Mm.
But we were very, very, very proud of ourselves at how well we did navigating travel and like figuring out where we were, because we were both very anxious. But oh my gosh. Let me tell you this one story, okay? I think this is actually kind of funny. And then I'll move on from like the whole traveling thing. But we use the train system to get to and from the conference. And this one night, the first night, we thought, oh, we'll leave early. We'll get ahead of everybody. Like, it won't be a big deal. We go down to the train. We're staying there waiting. And finally, it shows up. There are so many people waiting. There was one stop ahead of us that also, like, was next to the stadium. So, like, there were already a bunch of people on. No joke. Everyone was so scared they weren't going to get onto a train that everybody starts pushing and shoving. So you're like getting shoved from behind. I looked at Lori and I said, this is how people get trampled. Like, we're going to die. And we get shoved on. And then I'm standing there next to these two like tall men. Okay. So, I mean, it wasn't really difficult on my part. Right. So I'm standing there, and I mean, I've never been closer to strangers in my life. Like, we are packed and shoved up against people. Like, you know how trains like jolt when you move at first? I couldn't have moved if I tried. And here I am holding on to this man in his flannel in like, and of course, this is so awkward. I'm like feeling weird because I'm like, I'm standing so close to these two men. One of them isn't facing me, but the other one like sort of is. And I'm like, I think I looked up at one of them, or I like felt his flannel or something because I fell against him when the train moved.
Right.
And I go, oh, nice flannel. At least it's really soft.
You said that to him?
Yes. And actually, I think the guy whose flannel like that I actually fell against, I wasn't like talking to him. He never looked at me. Like he was facing the total opposite direction. But his friend like looked down at me and was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Dude, listen, we are all shoved in this thing. Like, just go with it."
Right. We could have just stared at each other. At least you got a compliment.
I know. Anyways, that was that. The conference itself, so good. There were like 6 different sessions, or like, I don't even know how many different speakers. I think 6 or 7, but listening to all of them was so cool. And I said to Lori multiple times, like on the way back, I said, I don't even know what my takeaways are or like what the big things I have yet, because it just felt like I was getting drenched with so much information and so many speakers and so much stuff that it was just a lot.
Right. I kind of feel like you need to take a few days to think about everything you even just heard.
Yeah, so I wrote down like the main questions from each session, but I think some of the biggest thing already just walking away is like I need to make sure that like I want my faith to be a big part of who I am, and so I think that I need to have people in my life that are holding me accountable to really making that a big part of life and making that like the focal point of what I'm trying to do. So
that's a good takeaway.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now, and we will see how that goes this week, but yeah.
Oh, exciting. Do you have anything else new?
No.
Are you excited to go back to work tomorrow?
Yeah, not really. Because I had a sub for so many days, I know there's going to be so many papers waiting for me, but it's okay.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
All right. So our next segment we're going to go into is our This Day in History. And it was my turn to come up with the history, and we have it loaded up on here. So if you're watching the video version, you can see it right here. But if you're watching the Instagram, or you're just listening to our podcast, then you need to go to our Instagram to see this video. Abby has not seen it.
Yeah, there's a lot of anticipation in me right now. Like I'm feeling like I didn't get this experience last time, and it's feeling special, like weird. I don't know. I love it.
Which is good. I will tell you it has to do with our topic for today.
Oh.
So it's kind of just about our topic. And you'll know exactly what it is when you see it. It's a really short video. And I will put it on for you now. I don't think there's any sound that uploaded. There's supposed to be sound.
Oh.
But I don't think it got there.
Well, just show it to me. I'll be able to talk about it anyways.
It's loading in.
I am excited. I'm feeling really like my oh.
So it played really fast. Let's see if I can play it again. You can start talking about it because there's no audio that comes with it, but I'm going to try to play that again.
That just shocked me, okay? Because this is so not like I literally had no expectation of what you were about to just show me, and so that just was so funny. Okay.
Why don't you keep talking? I'll pause it on here so that we can really all see it.
Okay. So when we lived together in the house, this video that Bailey's got up here is a video basically of just a few pictures taped to our wall. It's some edited photos of Post Malone. The first one is him with a Santa hat on, and the second one is Post Malone and Martin Luther King, and it says MLK Day. Okay, so these are the two that are on this video. Anyways, it began, we used to have parties. We lived in the women's house, and we'll explain that more as we get into our topic right after this. But the house that we lived in, we would have parties for different holidays. So for Halloween and for Christmas. And at Christmas, we would have an ugly sweater Christmas party. And one of our friends, Tim, I think we mentioned him last time, but he came to the ugly sweater Christmas party. He didn't have an ugly sweater, so he printed this picture of Post Malone with a Santa hat and taped it to his sweatshirt and showed up in it. And somehow that picture stayed in our house for months. I mean, I think it stayed in our house all year.
He took it off his sweatshirt and just like stuck it on the wall.
Yeah.
During the Christmas party. And we thought it was pretty funny, so we left it up.
We left it up, and then it it became a thing that our friend Grace had, like, she would edit stuff a bunch and like make photos, and she started doing something with Post Malone for every single holiday.
Graduations, birthdays.
I hope you have more pictures of more of them, Bailey, that we can put on to our Instagram.
I'll put them on the Instagram. I have a whole video and pictures of other ones, but I have a video of Grace explaining some of them. We've got Groundhog's Day.
Okay.
Independence Day. We've got a COVID one.
I was going to say, because I've got a picture of a wall full of them, too, if you don't either. But
on my 21st birthday, I got a picture with Post.
I had forgotten about this. That's why I laughed that hard, because I completely forgot that this had even happened.
Well, I was having a hard time picking one, and then I saw this, and I was like, this goes perfect with our topic.
It really does. It really does. So I guess from that, this is so fun. I don't know if you can get rid of that video now. Mm-hmm. It's still up on for me. But anyways, from there, let's go ahead and jump into our topic.
Okay.
So our topic this week is basically just talking about like living college life, college ministry. For us, that basically means the houses that we lived in and kind of how that all worked. So I guess I've got some different questions, like some different topics that we can talk about with it. But we should just start with explaining like how our church worked and like the houses that went with it. So go ahead.
Yeah. So we went to a church called His House, and it was a church that was right off of our college campus. So the majority of the people that went to this church were college students, and they had 3 campus houses, which were just off campus as well, that housed boys and girls. Our house was the women's house. There was a big men's house, and then there was a tiny house that only 3 people lived in, which would change between a men's or a women's house depending on how many people they had applied to live in the houses every year. So we had to apply to live in these, and you would just, it was another form of ministry within the church. So there were certain obligations we had living in the house, hosting dinners, hosting different groups, kind of just being at everything.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add to that.
Right. We had our first year, there were 9 of us in the house.
Really? I thought there were 10.
Maybe.
I didn't
There
count.
were a lot of us. They were big houses. Similar to a sorority-ish.
Yeah, sorta. My first question, or the first thing, is how did you decide to live in the house? I sort of know my story a little bit, but I've forgotten how you did. And also, there were a lot of us that year, and we mentioned this last podcast, of girls that had decided to move in that had come from community college and hadn't actually gone to CMU before and gone to His House before applying to live in the house.
Right, because most people didn't know about the house unless they were going to CMU, they were attending His House, they got the application. I knew about it beforehand because my uncle, when he was in college, had lived in the campus houses. And I remember he was always talking about it. He loved his time there. He lived in the men's house. So I knew when I was going to go to CMU, I was like, that's where I'm going to apply to live. Don't really care if we're living in the dorms. So I'm going to apply to live in this women's house. And I'm like, it's going to be a great way to make friends right off the bat. Some nice Christian friends. Make a lot of them.
Yeah.
Get some community.
I remember I had grown up in Mount Pleasant, and then we moved later when I was in high school. But I knew a girl who was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years older than me, and she was in college, and she had gone to His House. And she never lived in the campus house, but later on when I was deciding to go to CMU, she told me about the house and how she had friends that lived there and how cool of an experience that was, and kind of talked to me about it. And then I had sort of thought about it, and then also your friend Bailey, Angie.
Right, and I told her about it.
Yeah. Angie, I went to church with Angie. She was best friends with Bailey, in elementary school through high school, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in a Bible study, and she told me to live there, and she was also deciding to do it too. So that kind of convinced me. But the funny thing was, I was not going to go to CMU.
Were you not? Where were you going to go?
I was going to go to. So I went to our community college, and after that, I was going to go to SVSU.
Mm.
And that's close enough to my house that I could have lived at home if I wanted to. And that was my plan because it was easier to transfer credits being a teacher and everything, and it just lined up really well. But halfway through my time at our community college, I decided to switch. And I remember, I mean, honestly, I think it was like one of the best decisions ever, but I also think God was definitely in that decision because I wouldn't have met the people that are my best friends now. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be where I am in my faith or anything at all if that hadn't have happened. But I remember sitting down with my best friend at Delta, and her name is Anna, and she we were talking, and she said to me, like, if you had to make a decision right now in this moment, where would you go and what would you do?
Mm.
And I was like, I didn't want to answer her, but I was like, I think I would go to CMU. And she was like, well, then that's what you need to do. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I was terrified out of my mind. Like,
I remember you were
scared.
nervous. I mean, you told
so
us you were
scared.
really nervous.
I think I cried so much.
Honestly, but there were multiple times that you would come and stay with us like for a day or two over the weekend before you even moved in.
Well, you guys were there August to December, like, because you had started at CMU and I was still at community college for that half a semester. And so I would come hang out all the time to just get a feel of what it was like to be in the house, to know the people that lived there, to get to know Grace, who ended up being my roommate while we both lived there.
Because it's really intimidating to move into a house with so many girls halfway through a semester when they've already they're friends, they've been hanging out every day, they live together. So
well, and I also had a lot of other things going on in life that were making me really nervous with the whole situation. So on top of moving in with a bunch of girls I didn't know, to also have other things going on was just kind of very, very scary for me.
Yeah.
But honestly, I will say I think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Oh, me too.
Like, if I was talking to a girl trying to decide, or a guy trying to decide if they wanted to move into a house with a bunch of their friends or into a campus house or anything like similar, I would be like, do it 100%. Wow. I didn't say that word right. 100% do it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the one thing I was nervous about is I didn't know any of these people. I didn't know anyone that went to the church yet, even.
Yeah, neither did
And I was just going to be moving into this house. And when you live in the ministry house, you're automatically in like a leadership position.
Mm-hmm.
So to be in a leadership position and not to know like anyone in the church is really intimidating.
Yeah. And I think also leadership position, most of what that meant was just that, like, we were an example to people and we would help run events. So
right.
Some of those events were like the simplest thing of just inviting people over to our house and cooking dinner. And we would try to have 2 or 3 guests every night. And
yeah, we would have, I think we had 3, one semester, I think we had 4 house dinners a week.
Mm-hmm. But we would usually try to do at least 3 house dinners a week and invite 2 or 3 people to each one. And then there were also things where we would have some parties at our house, or we would help run events either at the church or help run events over at the men's house, which was just kind of more of a central location of the campus.
Because theirs was really right off the campus.
Yeah.
So everybody would just kind of go there and hang out. But I will say, you mentioned house dinners. I think one of my favorite things about living in the house were the house dinners.
Oh,
because,
okay.
Yeah, well, I loved hanging out with you guys, but I loved the house dinners because you're in college, so usually you don't sit down at a dinner table and just have dinner with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But we would have dinner with as many housemates that weren't like they didn't have class or they didn't have other commitments. We'd all sit every day and we'd get to catch up at dinner and just have a meal together. And that was really, I think, a really special time.
I thought about this while I was thinking about what we wanted to talk about today. And I loved the dinners. I was one
when you weren't cooking.
Right, most of the time. But here's my question. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but what was the worst house dinner you've ever been a part of?
Oh, well, okay. Can it be one that I just had to eat?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
That was a question I had.
The first year we lived in the house dinners were kind of awful because we had 2 vegetarians. We had a girl that was lactose intolerant. We had another girl that was gluten-free. So our meals had to accommodate all of those things.
Was that it? I thought there was more.
Yeah, but that's like no meat, no dairy, and no bread.
For some reason, I thought that
that's
there was also
every category.
I thought that was there was also
someone tried to be vegan at one point, and I think we were like, no, we cannot. We already basically are.
No, we for sure were vegan.
Yeah. So we had a lot of meals that were kind of like deconstructed, or we'd have like a separate like gluten-free option. It was a lot of like pasta, but the pasta's not mixed together, or like potato bowls or like Chipotle type style bowls. But the worst house dinner that I had was like squash soup, but it was just like broth. And that is the only thing we ate for dinner. And our guests came over, and I know they were so hungry. And I think they went and got food afterwards. So I was like, this is not the most like welcoming thing to have people over for dinner, and we're serving them broth.
That's embarrassing.
It was really embarrassing. I didn't make the dinner that day, but
well, and you can't even give them bread or anything because
we would get bread like off to the side. Like we would have a gluten option, but it was so hard because we would have to like usually the gluten-free option also by default had to be the meatless option.
Right.
So it was usually like a gluten-free, no meat option. And then we had like the good one, that had the meat, the dairy, and the... Sometimes we would just put dairy in it because the girl that was not supposed to have dairy didn't care that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steph couldn't have cared.
No. I think another question for me is, how long did you live in the house? I lived there for 2.5 years. How long did you live there?
I lived there for 2 years.
Okay. Over my time living in the house, most of the time dinners were so fun, but it would sometimes depend on who you got paired with. Like sometimes people were not good at cooking. You didn't know what you were doing. But other times just like, I remember, I think it was my last semester living in the house or something. I switched nights with someone. And I cooked with my friend Brie, who I love with my whole heart, okay? But this woman is so messy in the kitchen. And, like, being messy gives me anxiety. Like, as I go, I, like, clean up as I go. Like, things get put away. I wash things as I go. Like, whatever. No, she would just leave things behind her. And I remember telling her, I can never, ever cook with you again. Like, I just followed her around the whole kitchen and picked up and wiped down things and, like, just put things away. And I was like, you are giving me major anxiety. Like, I can't cook with you.
Yeah. All of my partners, I had a good time with all of them. Yeah. My last semester, right before, the Rona hit, for a little bit, I had Grace. Oh. Grace and I just made crock pot dinners all the time because we were both so busy. That was fantastic. Really before that, I had Holly. We would make vlogs while we cooked. That was such a good time. And then I had Steph. Steph was my roommate after I lived out. She was a great time. Stephanie, though, and I were kind of a hot mess in the kitchen.
I'm surprised you remember all yours.
Oh, I do, because it was a good time. I loved cooking with my partner. I didn't like cleaning up, but I loved cooking.
But you just love cooking in general. I don't.
Yeah, that's true. But I do remember one time Steph and I, it was I think the very first time we were cooking together, and I didn't know her very well, so I wasn't like as assertive of like, yeah, that's wrong. So we were trying to make, okay, again, remember, we are dairy-free, kind of veganish, So we're making lentil enchiladas.
Ew. I'm sorry.
Actually, they weren't bad, but it was gross on top. We tried to make dairy-free cheese, and that was gross. But we were making lentil enchiladas, and she's like, how many lentils do I put in this pot? And I was like, it says 2 cups. And she's like, I'm just going to pour the whole bag in. And the whole bag was probably like 7 or 8 cups of lentils. And we just had lentils for days. But we're like, what else do you put lentils in?
Nothing.
But they're pretty good, actually.
That's funny. Okay, here's another question I had, or something that I thought about, and I have a something in mind for the answer to this.
Okay.
But who was the craziest roommate we ever had?
Oh.
Or like craziest vibes, or I don't know.
Craziest vibes. I gotta go through everyone.
I've got an answer right off the bat, and I don't know.
All right, you go first.
Okay, mine was Rachel Arp.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She
was the best type of person, but so very go with the flow. She was down for anything.
Oh, and everything. She would convince you, and I've got a story of something she convinced me to do one time. But
nice. Well, her motto was turn up or transfer.
Oh, all the time. You would do
so anything. Like anytime she would want you to do something. So we lived with so many girls. They were always wanting to do something. We would do things late. We would go get ice cream, whatever, any time of the day. If you told her, no, I don't want to go do this, she would be like, well, turn up or transfer. And then you'd be like, well, I guess I got to go now. I can't transfer.
I think I honestly got a lot of my little sayings from her. Like, turn up and transfer. Or peace out, Girl Scout. Or
she's the reason we were really obsessed with Post Malone.
Oh, really?
The song Wow. She'd go, wow. Wow song. We would sing that all the time.
That's true. But she was just so fun. She was wild. And she was in her senior year when we started living with her. And, she was obsessed. If there's anything to know about Rachel, absolutely obsessed with llamas. Like, that's it. I mean, one time I got her a package of, like, I saw llama gummies and just bought them for her, and she was, like, the happiest person in the world. But anyways.
So sweet, so happy.
Let me give you a picture of Rachel. So she would, like, convince people to do anything. Everything was crazy. Like, let's have fun. Like, let's just
And you couldn't say no.
No.
Because she was so happy.
So one night she comes into my room, and she's like, somehow we start talking about camping. And I'm like, no, like, I think I've got things going on in the morning. Like, I was going to do this, blah, blah, blah. She's like, let's go camping. And I'm like, what? And then she's like, let's go see the sunrise in the morning. Like, we'll go camping and then we'll see the sunrise. And somehow this woman got me to do it with her. Now, I was also very, like, FOMO, right? Like, I had a big fear of missing out and did not want to miss anything fun at all. So she got me. Wasn't that hard. We called up our friends, Tim and Andrew. We said also we knew they would be the only people that go with us, but also Andrew had a tent. So we said, Tim and Andrew, let's go camping. We want to go somewhere and wake up in the morning and see the sunrise. Now, mind you, this was at like 10 p.m. at night. Like, already.
Was I not with you for this trip?
Oh, no, you were not.
Oh, because there's another camping excursion we went on that I was there.
There's another one. But this one, no, this one's totally different.
Okay.
So somehow Rachel and I decide that we're going, and we decide like where we're going to go to, and we get the guys on board. They pick us up. We get in the car. We start driving. We're driving somewhere that's 2 hours away.
Oh my gosh.
We're in the car. We're probably, it's like we're not going to get there till 1 a.m. like late.
And I remember this was a weekday because I'm pretty sure I got asked to go, and I was like, I have to go to school tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we're about 45 minutes, an hour down the road. And mind you, the reason of this was to camp and then wake up in the morning and see the sunrise. and someone in the car goes, wait a second, where are we going? And we were headed up to like Manistee, which is on the west side of the state. And if you know anything about where the sun rises, it rises in the east and sets in the west. and somebody goes, aren't we going because you guys wanted to see the sunrise? And I have never felt dumber in my whole life than in that moment, because I was like, oh my gosh. We didn't even get where we wanted to be until like 1 a.m. We're like trying to figure out where to camp. We ended up seeing a mountain lion. One of our friends is laying on the sidewalk. He's so tired. Like, it doesn't even want to move. We end up just like pitching our tent in this random spot, which ended up being so close to the road. It was ridiculous. Like, I mean, of all the dumb things we've done, like that, it's got to be some of the top of my list. But anyways, that was ridiculous.
Yeah. She could really convince anyone to do anything.
She could.
So yeah, I'd put her down as my craziest roommate.
And now she's been off traveling. She lived in Australia for a year. She was off in Europe.
She just got back.
Yeah, I would love to have her on our podcast sometime to talk about all of her experiences.
I think she would be a fantastic guest to have.
Yeah. Anyways, house memories. We made a lot of house memories aside from just that crazy time with so many people, and I think that's kind of what makes it huge for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, the house is really nice too because it was supposed to be a place where in the day it was kind of an open environment for people to come and just hang out. So we would have people kind of just hanging out. We had a place in there called the booth room where we just had a bunch of old diner booths that were in our front room, and we would sit and do homework. And sometimes people from school or people from church would stop by and do homework. We'd hang out with them. So I feel like I hung out with way more people than I would have living in the house.
Yeah, me too. I tend to study and do things on my own. And that forced me to kind of be around people and like have fun and goof around and laugh a lot. And yeah, I think another special part about the house was being in the house. We did like a Bible study once a week together. And that was really cool because I think it just kept us accountable and kept us like wanting to invest in our faith and invest in each other. And it just kind of pushed you to become close with the people you were living with and not just like, oh, I pass them in the hallway or, oh, I eat dinner with them 2 or 3 times a week. Like, so you were really invested in each other's lives and you really cared about what was happening and how they were doing, which I think is really unique to that situation.
Yeah. Like we really were doing all of life together. Like we lived together, we cooked together, we ate together, and then we really cared about each other's spiritual well-being as well. And we would do weekly prayer partners where we'd meet with that person and we'd talk to them and we'd get to know them. And it just felt like people really, really cared about you. Yeah. Like by the end of especially that first year, we were all like sisters and we'd check up on each other. And there was always someone there that like really cared and would ask about you and check up on you and just, yeah.
Stop. I just remembered something that we have to talk about that's not even on my list, okay?
Okay.
So year 1, we would have a his house. Well, no, I don't know where this came from. I think that was another year. Pause. Let me gather my thoughts before I start jumping into the story. Okay. At one point in time, one of our roommates that first year started getting what she thought were spider bites.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
And
this is someday going to be a history of the day because I have so much footage from this.
Yeah, and I don't think we can even share the whole story on here. It would take too long. But what prompted this in my mind was that Bailey said we were all sisters. And sisters in my mind are the people that love each other, that care about each other, but also the people that fight with each other. So anyways, this gets into a fight story. But this one girl thought she was getting spider bites. Lo and behold, months later, we find out somehow one day that it's really bed bugs. Okay.
And it was a long time.
Oh, it was
like she showed us, like, I remember at least a month before we found out they were bed bugs, she was like, I have these marks on my arm.
Well, and
we were looking up spiders and everything.
Someone even told her, hey, maybe it's bed bugs. And she was like, oh, no. And maybe at the time she checked in, you couldn't see them. Like, I don't know. But
maybe.
Anyways, months go by. We find out eventually this girl has bed bugs. But then other people are checking their beds. Not only does she have bed bugs, 2 other rooms on the same floor had bunk beds. So the house we lived in was 3 floors. There were 4 bedrooms on one floor and 3 bedrooms on the other. On the first floor, 3 out of 4 bedrooms had bed bugs. My bedroom, Grace and I shared a room, and we were the only one on that floor that didn't have bed bugs. Now, on this day, one of our roommates happened to have a date in, like, another town. So, a bunch of the girls were leaving to take her on this date. I'm pretty sure Grace and I were the only two people that were at home that day. Everyone else was either busy or like going to take her on this date and like hang out in Lansing. Grace and I were livid. I don't think I have been more mad at people that aren't in my family like ever in my life. And Grace and I spent the entire day clearing our room fully out, vacuuming, cleaning, taking all of our belongings to the laundromat and putting them all in dryers, like, because we had heard like that bed bugs die in the heat and whatever. Okay. That night, everybody gets back. And now we've just shared how we all loved each other and we were so sweet and we cared about each other and it was great, which is all true. But oh my gosh, stressful moments.
You had a list for us.
Stressful moments bring out the worst in people. We had a list for them, and when they got back, we set them all down in the living room and we said, these are the things you must do and you must do them now.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I think I was up until 4 a.m. Helping take people's stuff to the laundromat. I lived on the 3rd floor, so none of us had bed bugs, but we were all freaking out, and I think I dried all my clothes anyways. Everything was dried.
Yeah.
So I think we were at the laundromat till like 3 or 4 a.m. We've spent like hundreds of dollars at the laundromat at this point. Just drying clothes. Stephanie and I, 3 a.m. at this laundromat. I had a favorite laundromat at this point because it had a nice relaxing couch, but I just wanted to go to bed, and I think we were crying in the laundromat.
Oh.
And our other roommate wanted to fold her clothes as she's putting them back in the bag, and we're grabbing her stuff because we're ready to go, and we're shoving it in bags, and we're all just crying, shoving these dry clothes into bags.
Well, and at this point, Grace and I had finished everything we needed to do. We were back at home. We were in our beds. Our lights were out. Our room was put back together. Like, we'd done it all. And we hear everybody get back. Like, we heard all the doors slam. We heard people come, like, stomping in the house. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of people in our hallway. We hear sobbing from, like, 2 or 3 different girls. And I said to Grace, and this is one of my worst, most selfish, like, just moments that I feel bad about. Okay. But I hear this girl crying, and I said to Grace, I go, I'm sorry, but I don't even feel bad, and I am not getting up. And it was horrible. Like, we were all so selfish and so scared. And I remember this one time also after that whole thing, we had told people you may not step foot into our room because we just didn't know how bed bugs worked or anything. And this one girl puts like one toe in our room. And I swear it took everything in me not to lose it and yell at her. I was so scared to get bed bugs.
Oh, me too, because my room was safe, but I was like, if I get this. Also, I remember after our house had been cleaned, we'd washed everything, we'd gotten rid of the bed bugs. One of our roommates opened up one of her textbooks, and in the middle of her textbook was just a dead bed bug, and she freaked out. Yeah, she freaked out and threw all of her textbooks on the front porch, and I came home and there was just textbooks all over the front porch. And I was like, Amber, what happened? She goes, there was a bed bug in my book. They're lost. They're gone to me.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Living in that house sure was an adventure.
It was. Well, also, I have in my notes to talk about the polar vortex. So the first year we lived in the house, there was this polar vortex that went through, and I think it hit all of the Midwest.
Yeah.
And it was so cold, we weren't allowed to go outside. They canceled school for like 2 weeks. And we weren't supposed to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was all of us living in this house together. We're not allowed to leave. We can't go anywhere because not only is it cold, we keep getting a bunch of snow, so it's icy. So they're like, if you're outside for too long, you're going to get frostbitten. So we can't even have fun out there. We are stuck in this house. Okay. All of us.
We for sure went outside. I remember going sledding
just a little bit, but only like once, because there was at least a full week where they're like, you can't go outside.
That's true. Yeah.
Because if we got canceled for snow at one point, but then it was the polar vortex and we weren't allowed to leave. And I remember at first it was so fun. I had this projector and we would play it in the living room.
Oh my gosh,
We'd
and like
watch
all the
movies on
houses
it all
would come
together.
over.
And that was so fun. But I remember by the end of this 2 weeks when we're all stuck in the house together, we were going stir crazy and we were starting to fight because these are the only people we could see all day. We weren't going to classes. We weren't seeing anyone else. People had started going home because they didn't have class, like not in our house, but like people outside. And you weren't, we were like, we couldn't go sledding or anything.
Yeah, I think that Bailey and I have been close probably since our mission trip that first year.
Oh, yeah. So our church would also go on mission trips over spring break.
Right. And I think that's when you and I got really close. And then I was also super, super close with the girl and I who shared a room, Grace. And during the polar vortex, I would wrap this scarf around my head all the time. And you
Can
guys
we say this?
Probably.
Okay.
You guys would call me babushka, making fun of me and like calling me like grandma in Russian. And it just became
But why would
joke.
you do this? Why did you start it? Because you were cold?
Yeah, I would literally just go outside during the polar vortex, so I would wrap the scarf around my head to stay warm.
It's like negative 20 degrees out, and she's trying to stay warm, and we're making fun of her.
Yeah. And then for like the next year that we lived together, every once in a while, they'd just be like, babushka, babushka. It was so dumb.
But sometimes I feel like you would just sit in the house with the scarf on your head.
No. Okay, well,
Never?
actually, here's the deal. I do have a problem. And this problem still persists today, is that when I go places, I just don't take my coat off. And it's not necessarily because I'm cold. I genuinely have no idea why. It's just like I'll go somewhere and keep my coat on for an extended period of time. So probably I had been outside and I came in and I just left my coat on for a long time. But I can promise you that scarf was not wrapped around my head for like an hour in the house.
Well, it was pretty funny. I can also put in a picture of Instagram of babushka.
Me wrapped in that scarf. Speaking of babushka, and this doesn't really have to do anything with that except for that we were out in the snow, we went on a ski trip too. We went on one or two of them.
And you know what's really funny? I also used to make vlogs in college. And so that vlog is definitely, or that ski trip is definitely in a vlog.
Oh, it's a vlog for sure.
If you guys find that YouTube channel, it's well hidden now. I hid it when I started teaching.
I was going to say, isn't it private?
It might be private, but some people can still find it sometimes, they tell me.
Interesting.
So if you find it, you can find the vlog of it.
Well, at that point in time, we were very, very, very into odds, like playing odds.
Oh, yes.
And so I remember Rachel, or somebody, I think it was Rachel, but somebody being like, odds you stick your face into the snow or something. Dumbest thing ever. Like, it was always the stupidest crap. And I played odds. What do you do? Pick a number from 1 to 10 and say it when somebody counts down?
So like, let's say I want Abby to stick her face in the snow. I go, odds out of 20. You stick your face in the snow. Someone else counts down. If we say the same number, you have to do it.
Oh, yeah.
If we say two numbers that add up to 20, we both have to do it. And then sometimes, if like none of that happened, I would play it with people that if you didn't get odds the first time, it would be cut in half to like 10 and reverse onto the other person. So it was high stakes. Yeah. But you would lose a lot.
I really did. The 2 times I remember most is one on that ski trip. I had to just like they literally opened the door and were like, slam your face in the snow. And so boom, I just slammed my face. Oh, I delivered. But also it was a freaking ice block.
We have, oh my goodness, the imprint of her face in this ice was almost like someone had sculpted it. Like it was a mold of her face.
We've got to put a picture
I've got the photo. I can post that on our Instagram.
But also, the other odds I lost was a few years later. I have this onesie that's an Eeyore onesie. And I was wearing it.
She would wear it often around the house.
Yeah. I was wearing it one night when all the guys came over. And one of them was like, odds you wear that all day tomorrow to your classes. And I was like, that's stupid. No. And they were like, odds, you have to do it. And I was like, fine, I'll play. Like, we're not going to hit the same number. Lo and
Right,
behold,
FOMO.
we hit the same number. And I had to wait. I did it because I was like,
I remember this day.
yeah, I was like, I will prove them wrong. Like, I am going to do it. And I went to class and I wore it. I think I wore it half the day because I couldn't wear it all day. Like, I had other things I like had to do or something. But I went to class. I wore it. I told my classmates the story. I gave them my phone, made them take pictures of me in class so that I could send it to all the guys to prove it. And oh my word. Yeah. Anyways.
I feel like you started talking about the guys, so we should maybe talk about the men's house a little bit.
Yeah, talk about men's house ministry a little bit, and then I feel like we've covered most of our topic.
Yeah, so the men's house, I have a few questions for you after this.
Oh, okay.
But the men's house was a little bit more central to the campus. Like, it was right off campus. So there were always people just hanging out on the first floor. And the thing about this house is, okay, we would have people over, but they weren't allowed to go upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, they could hang out in the first floor, but they couldn't just, like, roam people's bedrooms. So we still, if we needed privacy or we just need to be by ourselves and we were to go to our room, like, people couldn't just wander up there. So that was nice. But on the first floor, like, until pretty much we would go to bed, people could kind of come in there. In the men's house, there were always people over there. And a lot of, like, ministry things that we would do would be in the men's house because we would see more people. But at least my first year, a lot of times on Friday nights, Thursday or Friday nights, we would do Jesus Dogs.
I wrote that down too.
So Jesus Dogs was, we would cook hot dogs and we would serve them to the kids that were going partying. But we would call it Jesus Dogs. And we would just kind of be out there playing basketball and handing out hot dogs to people.
Yep.
Which I'm not sure if you can do now after COVID.
Yeah. Oh, college students will accept it, no doubt.
Oh, that's true. But they loved it. We were right on the corner of the campus, past so many people. We just eat hot dogs with strangers. It was a good time.
And it was
Play
fun.
basketball.
Someone broke the basketball hoop one time.
Yes. One time it was at Jesus Dogs, and someone went to go hang on to the hoop, and they shattered the glass.
I think they went to dunk.
They went to dunk or something, and I remember I was out there late sweeping glass out of the stone little driveway that
I
we
left
would play
before
on.
it happened.
Yeah, I saw it happen, and then it got replaced with a wooden backboard, which
That somebody made.
That someone made. It looks really good, but yeah, someone shattered the glass. So it was always eventful, at Jesus Dogs. But they would also do house dinners. They invited a lot more people than we would to theirs.
Yeah.
But it was a fun time. A lot of games played. There was always a guy sitting in the corner trying to play the guitar that was in the living room. Always a different guy. Always someone trying to play it, as there should be in a Christian crowd.
That's so funny because there was also at one point, and I don't know if at the beginning when we lived there, but there were just guitars everywhere.
Oh, there were. And then they started hanging them on the walls. And then you would look at there'd be two guys in the corner trying to play. They were all always trying to play the intro to Bloom.
That's true.
And it was I think they wanted people, some of them, most of them wanted, you want people to notice because otherwise you wouldn't be playing in a room full of people. You'd be playing in your room or you'd be at your own apartment. But it was a good time,
Yeah.
We were into it. Oh, and on Sundays, they would always host a Sunday brunch. And so we would, in the women's house, we would take turns helping them cook this brunch. But after church, everybody would come over at church and come to this brunch. So
that was so fun.
They would have probably 40 people at them sometimes.
Sometimes we would play Wii games. We'd play card games.
Make mass amounts of food. And brunches were always really good, except for one time. Actually, twice. I have 2 brunch stories. So the first time I made brunch was with our buddy Doug. And I know Doug is listening.
Shout out Doug.
Shout out Doug. I did not know Doug. This was my first weekend at school. I hadn't even met all the guys yet because it's coming off of summer. And Doug and I are making French toast. And Doug sets well, first of all, my little sister was with us. She was staying for the weekend and she's super quiet, but she was helping us make brunch. So that was also really weird. But then Doug set his oven mitt on the stove and it caught on fire and we had to put it out. And then I remember we just put it in the trash and we didn't talk about it afterwards. He was like, that didn't happen. But then there was another time I was working with these two boys and we were making bacon, and they like their bacon still kicking. They love it raw.
Ew.
It was so gross. They were like taking out the oven and they were going to serve it to people, and I just remember everybody was going, ew, this bacon's not cooked. So that was a little bit embarrassing that I was part of that team. But that was fun. I did love making brunch and working with brunch.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add about brunch or any of that? The men's house?
Let's get to your questions.
Some questions for you. My first one was, do you wish you had lived in the dorms?
Oh, yeah, no. Well, okay.
No.
Sometimes, yes. When I hear other people's experience with dorms and like other people's college stuff, sometimes. But thinking back on my experience, like I don't think I would change it. Like I loved our house. I loved living with so many girls. We mostly in this podcast just talked about like our first year, first semester, but I lived with so many girls after that too, and have so many crazy memories from. We created these like holiday of the day videos and would celebrate like the stupid holidays from each day. That was my last semester in the house, and that was like one of the most fun things I remember doing. But like
I feel like my whole time in the house is documented on video somewhere.
Yeah. So I don't think I would change it for anything. Like I love it, and the amount of stories and like fun things I have because of it is just so good.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the only reason I would want to live in the dorms is maybe to meet different people.
Yeah.
But I met so many people living in the house. I met some of my best friends at the time. Even after I moved out of the house, I lived with two girls that I had met in the house, my best friends. I was going through my journals the other day to try to find a history. And it wasn't on this day, but it was around this time, my first year. So I'd been living there for about 4 months. And I journaled something like, I have never felt more like loved by people that aren't my family in my whole life.
That is
like,
so
I was like,
cute. Stop.
I know. And I was like, I just found my best friends. I found people that really care about me, that like, and I wrote that all down and I was like, wow. So I don't think I would change it either, because I really think 19-year-old Bailey needed that so bad.
I think I did too. Like where I was at in life, that's what I needed, and that's what I needed to just kind of like I don't know. Yeah.
It was so good. I also have, how did you balance ministry with school, and was that ever overwhelming?
Oh. Yeah, because we were involved in a lot. I don't think it really was that overwhelming. I think it became a little bit more overwhelming my last semester living in the house. I led the house. And did you ever lead the house?
Yes, I did, but I only led the house for like half a semester because I led during the COVID semester.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, there was always a girl that was like the leader and kind of like would basically, your job was just to budget and then just to make sure that everyone in the house was doing well. You'd meet with different girls, just talk to see how people were and all
right, because we would contribute to a monthly little fund where you would buy like toiletries and
the food
for
dinners,
house dinners and stuff. So we'd have to make a budget for all of that.
Yeah. So I think that what was your question?
I said, how did you balance ministry with school? Was it overwhelming?
Right. I don't think it was ever overwhelming, maybe until I was the leader. And even then, I don't think it really should have been. I think it was me just placing more expectations on myself as a more, I don't know, as a more of a leader, you know, like having that title. And there were just also, I think, different girls in my house at that point when I was leading that like were just going through different things. And so I felt like I was really like talking through things with people and helping them, which was fun, but also just overwhelming. And so I think that definitely felt more crazy. But the rest of the time, it wasn't like we were required to be at absolutely everything. So like if we had other things going on or we had to study, or like we had a big exam coming up, we could skip things. And I think that just having that grace of understanding that like you're here as a student, but also we're here and we know that as students and honestly in anything we're doing, we're here to serve God. But like you're at school to be at school. And while you're at school, you want to serve God, but also do school
like
well.
You need to be doing well at school.
Yeah.
You know, that's also glorifying God.
Yeah.
Doing well at school, doing well in other things.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like most of the time I wasn't overwhelmed. I remember like there were a few points where I was like, we have like so many events this week that we're supposed to be at, and I have this project. I have to finish this up.
Yeah.
I think finals week was like a hard one when you'd get to finals and we would be doing house dinners. And
Right.
sometimes I think we would do away with it because of that. But most of the time, I loved it.
Me too.
It was super fun. I think I liked having something to do all the time.
Yeah.
But most of the time, no, it wasn't overwhelming. I think there's only a few points where I was like, we have a lot to do this week. And
Yeah.
I'm going to have to skip those.
Well, I feel like we have decently covered our topic of campus, or not campus, but college life, college ministry, living in the house, basically. I think that was the biggest part of college for us, and that's
right.
But another thing we'll have to cover at another point in time, and it'll have to be maybe a history day, is our West Virginia trip. Is we will definitely for sure talk about that because we don't have time to talk about it today.
No, but that'll be a good one.
Make sure that you follow our Instagram as we're wrapping up today, because we'll be posting a bunch of the videos, a bunch of the like the day in history, but also other little things that we've talked about today on there for you to see. The handle is who?
It is, yes, who with a 0.
Yeah, you do it.
Okay, it's who with a 0 for the O _ R, as in the word R, _ they _
Yeah. So thanks for listening. We are, if you got this far, you made it through episode 1 and episode 2, which is
congratulations.
Congratulations. You are a real one. Let us know.
We're glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Hopefully this was better than the first.
Hopefully. I mean, honestly, we're just here to have fun, hang out with each other. And if you enjoy hanging out with us, great. I applaud you. You are one of my favorite people on this world.
And you know what? If not, tell 10 of your friends.
Well, I hope that everyone listening has a wonderful week, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. See you then.
Stop.
Do I have to press stop?
I think you have to pause it or like stop or something.
I got it.